In Luke chapter 5, Jesus made a stop on his sold-out preaching tour to preach at what some believe to be Peter's mother's house. While he was teaching, some men showed up carrying another man on a bed. They was carrying their friend on the bed because he couldn't walk and most likely was paralyzed. As they got close to Jesus, they knew that they wouldn't be able to just walk up to Jesus because they were carrying their friend on a bed and there were so many people there. As a matter of fact, there was always a crowd whenever Jesus preached. Remember the miracle of fish story? It was that time when Jesus had to preach from a boat since there were so many people around. The Bible says that he was thronged, which means that the people pressed upon him like you would do a grape. He was also pressed upon by the people when the woman with the issue of blood touched him. Remember, she touched the hem of his garment. You remember that one? After she touched Jesus, Jesus said, "Who touched me?" And Peter was like, "Huh? Master, it's all these people touching you. Look at all these people around us." The point I'm trying to make is that there was always a multitude of people everywhere Jesus went and everywhere he goes. And I just want to say two things about this multitude before I get to my main points about this text. First is that God is purposeful. He even uses the fact that crowds gather around him. The crowds kept the Jews from trying to kill him before it was his time. Where the Bible says that the Jews teamed up with Judas to find a time to kill or arrest Jesus when he was by himself, because they were afraid that if they took Jesus while he was amongst the crowd, that the crowd would actually kill them. And I believe it to be true for us in a similar way, that the devil tries to get us by ourselves because he can do his best work when we are alone. The devil likes to speak lies into our ears to try to get us to do harm to ourselves and sometimes even other people. And so I want to say that whenever we're going through, we should definitely look to be around people who love us, for the Bible says that there is wisdom in the multitude of counselors. Secondly, this might be able to help somebody in their faith, because sometimes people may feel an earthly pull because it feels like other religious beliefs are more popular or maybe even cooler. And that can be true depending on where you're from, because certain religious beliefs can dominate in particular areas. And so I want to say to you, be encouraged. Even though it feels like you're in a minority or other people or so many people are following different beliefs going into a different direction, just remember that everywhere Jesus goes, there's always a sellout crowd. And you can even use Elijah as your example, because he was afraid too about people following false gods. And God told Elijah, "Listen, I got 7,000 prophets who have not bent the knee to the devil." And the great songwriter Jay-Z said it like this. He said, "Less is more, homie. It's plenty of us." So be encouraged, because you're not the only one walking this walk. Even though it may seem like it, the Bible tells us you're not the only one, for there's always a multitude everywhere Jesus went. We could even use King David as an example of getting into the multitude and finding safety there. For when King David was on the run from Saul, God told him to get to the house of God. Go get to the prophet Samuel. And when David got there, he was safe. As Saul and his lynchmen pursued after David, God caused them to pass out. He caused them to faint and not even be able to go after David. And so we can get into a multitude. And if you can't find the multitude, here it is, get to the house of God. That's where you know there's some believers at. That's where there's some like-minded people at, and you may find some safety in the house of God. Now, in this particular story, it's not only a sellout crowd, there isn't even any standing room. As we go back to our story and we see these men with the paralyzed friend, they knew that they couldn't just walk up to Jesus after seeing the large crowd around them. So one of the men came up with the bright idea of, let's lower him down through the roof. I'm telling you, these guys were determined to get their friend to Jesus. We all need some friends in our lives just like these guys. They did all the work. The paralyzed man, he couldn't help. Listen, you need a friend that is down for you the same way you're down for you. You need friends that just want to see you win. Imagine how many activities and times the paralyzed friend had to be left behind. But his bros were clearly not okay with him being left behind and not being on the same level as them. This story showed me that good friends don't just want a new car. They want the whole squad to buy a new car, right? They don't just want to go on vacations and come back and tell you about it. Good friends want you to have the ability to go too. These friends wanted their paralyzed friend to be made whole, just like them. They wanted to help their friend, but they knew it wasn't going to be easy. So let's look at what they did. These houses had a ladder that was outside that led to the roof. And we can picture this scene because they had to carry their friend and his bed up the ladder, put him back on his bed, break up the roof, and lower him down to Jesus. These were absolutely some great friends. And the Bible says a lot about friends, but I want to share my favorite verse. It's Proverbs 18:24, and it says, to have friends, one must first show himself to be friendly, and there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. I'm telling you that if you don't have close friends, just get close to Jesus and he'll be the best friend you'll ever have. And if you can establish a vertical relationship, that will be a great first step into having some horizontal relationships. Or in other words, if you can get a heavenly relationship with Jesus right, then your earthly relationships with people will be much more impactful, because God will not only put you around friends, he will put you around friends that know him. See, the paralyzed men's friends, they had to be believers too, because they were down for whatever. This was not like a sunroof like a car has. There was no button to press and the sunroof just opened up. This was not a paper roof. This was a tiled roof, and these roofs were durable roofs. It's a layered roof that is able to withstand high heat and heavy rain. They had to break it up, dig it up, and make a hole big enough to get a whole mattress drip. I cracked up to myself because I'm like, they literally broke him into the house of God. See, it's because they understood that getting to Jesus cannot wait. Time is of the essence. We have to peel back some layers of life. We have to break up the fallow ground of our hard hearts in order to get to God. Here's another nugget from the story. Just like the paralyzed man, our route to salvation or restoration will be and is unique. You will have and you have a story that is like no other. You will have a testimony and you have a testimony. But that testimony begins with us getting back to God. Lastly, as a part of my study, I caption or title every text that I'm reading, and I came up with 9 different titles for this text. Here's the top 3. Paralyzed by Faith, The In Crowd, and my favorite, Faith Finds a Way. I like that one the most, for Jesus was moved by their faith when that bed came down through the roof. And see, we ought to walk by faith and not by sight. We should live in a way that our faith becomes visible. See, these men are, if showing faith by works was a person, that's who they are. So I know I said a lot because that story was pregnant with a lot of truth. And I just want you to remember this if you can't remember anything else. You need friends that are going to help you get closer to God, and you need faith. For without faith, it is impossible to please God. For he that comes to God must believe that he is, and he that is a rewarder of them that seek him diligently.